Hungarian Folk Tales. The Contrary Wife and the Devil. Once upon a time there lived a woman who was very contrary. One day her husband told her to take his lunch to the field an hour early. So instead she took it out an hour late. Another time he told her to take better food out to him, but instead she took worse. Eventually her husband learned to make his requests backwards and said, "Well, well, wife, do not bring stuffed chicken and pancakes to me today, because they are not the kind of food to eat out in the field." It's true his wife took the food out earlier that day, but she did take her husband his stuffed chicken and pancakes. The next day her husband got hard to work and dug a deep pit at the end of the field, and the farmer's wife came to him with his food for lunch. The couple soon settled down next to the pit, and the man said to his wife, "Wife of mine, do not go near to the pit, because you will surely fall into it." But the man's wife still ventured close to the pit. "Wife of mine, take care and do not fall into the pit." But the man's wife fell right to the bottom of the deep pit. Hey! Then the man left his wife where she was, and he went home for his supper. The contrary wife tried hard to climb out of the pit, but it proved pointless. "I would even thank the devil if he got me out of here." "Well, here I am," the devil said to the wife. "I came to get you out. Climb onto my back." So the wife climbed onto the devil's back, and he pulled her out of the pit. Then the devil said to her, "Now you can get off." And the woman said, "I will not." So the devil said, "Then take good care, because you will soon fall off." And the devil began to dash madly around the land. Soon the devil grew tired, and he said to the woman, "Get off my back this minute." And the woman said, "No, I will not." The devil was tired out, and he said to the old woman, "Now get off my back." "No, I will not." The devil was desperate and did not know what to do next. Then he saw a soldier riding by and said, "Good hussar, if you can get this woman off my back, I will make you king." So the hussar got off his horse, walked cursing over to the woman and told her if she did not get off, he would cut her in two with his sharp sword. But the wife said, "No, I will not." So the brave hussar fought the woman with his sword. "Get off his back, good woman, or I will end your life." "No, I will not." Then the hussar said, "If you won't, then stay sitting on the devil." So then the woman said, "No, I will not." And she leapt off the devil's back, and the devil vanished. The hussar went on his way the following day, and the devil was waiting for him under a bridge as he planned to crown him king. The devil saw the hussar riding towards him. He poked his head out from under the bridge and shouted, "Fine hussar, the woman isn't still here, is she?" "She is not, do not fear." And as the hussar reached him, the devil said, "Now I will make you king. You must go to the king's daughter, and during your journey I will possess her soul. And then her hand will be promised to the man who can drive me out of her. But no one will be able to do this, only you. You simply have to say, 'Jump out, because I want to take her.' But should I possess another of his daughters, you must not drive me out, for then I will possess you, and you will never be free of me again." So now the hussar travelled to the town where he heard the news that the king's daughter had been possessed by the devil. decree was made that whosoever could drive the devil out would get the princess and half the kingdom. The hussar was delighted by this news, and so he reported to the palace saying he could drive the devil out. He said to the devil, "Jump out, devil, because I want to take her." Then the devil jumped out right away, and plans were made for the royal wedding. Years passed, and the news came that the devil had now possessed the king's second daughter. The hussar was asked to go out, but he was unwilling because he remembered what the devil had told him before. The hussar was promised treasure and many jewels, and so he eventually went. There he said to the devil, "Devil, jump out of there too, because I want to take her." The devil jumped out right away and was about to attack the poor hussar when he stamped hard on his foot and said, "Do you hear, devil? That woman is coming." Hearing this, the devil began to run and run and ran away forever and a day. Hungarian Folk Tales. Pinko. Once upon a time, there lived an old woodcutter who was poorer than a mouse. One day, the woodcutter said to his wife, "Wife of mine, please bake me 2 corn cakes that I can take them out to work with me so that I won't have to come home to eat." So the woodcutter's wife baked the cakes, put them in the woodcutter's bag, and he set off to work in the forest. Down in the forest lived old Paluto, and old Paluto had a young son called Pinko. Pinko listened keenly to the sound of the woodcutter's axe and watched the old woodcutter from the shadows. Then the crafty boy took the woodcutter's bag down and gobbled up both the corn cakes. But old Paluto got wind of what his son had done. "Where are you, Pinko?" old Paluto called out to his son. "Here I am, father." "Come quickly, where have you been?" "I have just gobbled up the old woodcutter's corn cakes." "As you felt no pity for the poor woodcutter, you will now have to serve for 3 long years in return. Do you understand?" This news saddened Pinko, but he agreed to do his father's bidding. So he turned on his heels and went back to the woodcutter. When he arrived, he said, "Woodcutter, I am the one who ate your corn cakes. So be happy, my child, and don't sound so sad. But it doesn't work like that because my father has punished me and told me that I should work as your servant for 3 long years. There is no need, my child, because I could never pay you, but I can earn my own living." And wonder of wonders, Pinko plucked the trees from the ground and knocked them together to make neat logs to be stacked. By the time night came, he had cleared the whole forest. "Can we go home now?" "Yes, but first I want to gather some sticks for the fire." Pinko set hard to work and gathered up so much firewood that even 20 oxen could not have carted it home. Then he lifted the poor woodcutter up and placed him on top of the pile. The very next day, the poor woodcutter went to the rich farmer to tell him that he had felled, cut and stacked all the wood for winter. The farmer was reluctant to believe him, and so he sent servants to see for themselves. They returned in the evening and informed him that the forest had been cleared and neatly stacked for winter, so the rich farmer was forced to pay the poor woodcutter. Then the woodcutter made his way home, where he and Pinko agreed that they should seek work with the Baron the very next day. "You came at the very best time," the Baron told them, "because the field I have to plough would take 100 men, a year and a day to complete." So the old man went to the market with Pinko, where they purchased 2 young calves and then went back to the field to plough it. There were very many men ploughing with a dozen oxen. So Pinko strode out to the middle of the field, and by noon he had already ploughed more than all the other men put together. The other workers were so impressed by Pinko's calves that they asked for what price he would gladly sell them. But Pinko was proud of the calves and asked for a sack of gold along with the 12 oxen. They bargained and bargained until the Baron agreed to pay Pinko's asking price. The sack of gold was measured out for him, he was given the 12 oxen, and then he was sent on his way. The Baron's men began to plough the land with the 2 calves, but however they pulled and pushed the tiny beasts, they would not work. They quickly reported the bad news to the Baron, who ordered them to search for Pinko and bring him back at once. The men soon caught Pinko. Then Pinko took the handle of the plough in one hand, cracked his whip with the other, and the calves began to plough as never before. "This is how you should do it," he told them, and he went home. Back at home, he and the woodcutter discussed where Pinko should next seek work, and they agreed that he should visit the king the very next day. "You came at the very best time," the king told them, "because the corn I have to thresh would take 100 men, a year and a day to complete." They went to the barn that was piled to the rafters with corn to be threshed. But Pinko grabbed one stack and threshed it in no time at all. Then he took all the rest of the wheat, oats, millet and barley and threshed it all before the day was done. Then Pinko went to the king to tell him the corn was threshed. "Oh, but you shouldn't have done it like that." "Why, what did I do wrong? The wheat, the barley, the oats and the millet should be separate." "That's no matter. I shall sort them apart." And no sooner had he spoken than, wonder of wonders, the grain all stood in neat piles. "What payment do you ask for your hard work, son?" "Only 1 sack of wheat," Pinko said. "Very well, you may come and collect it whenever you wish." Pinko returned home, and he and the woodcutter gathered all the canvas they could find and spent a week sewing the sack. Now let's go and collect our payment. The next day they reported to the king, who ordered his bailiff to fill Pinko's sack with wheat in payment for his work. Then they went to the barn and began to fill the sack and shovel all the grain in that Pinko had threshed. But that was only enough to fill one small corner of the sack. So the farm bailiff went back to the king and told him the size of the sack that Pinko had sewn. The king said, "I have agreed, and so I shall pay, but he will never be able to take the big sack away with him." So the men continued to fill the sack with last year's grain and the grain from the year before, and the sack still was not full when they had used up wheat from the last 10 years. "What kind of king is this man who cannot pay me for an honest day's work?" Pinko complained to the bailiff. Then Pinko took the enormous shack and swung it over his shoulder, and he and the poor woodcutter left for home. They walked away without even saying goodbye, and when they got home, there was much celebration. Now they had grain, wood, oxen and gold, and could at last live a happy life. As the months turned to years, Pinko said to the woodcutter, "I have been with you now for 3 long years, so I will leave you in the morning." The woodcutter pleaded and appealed for him to stay, but Pinko left for home. And when Pinko got home, there was much celebration, and they all lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Goat Soldiers. A long time ago, in a distant land, there lived a poor lad. His mother and father both died when he was young, and he was all alone. He was poor, he had no one, and so the poor lad became a shepherd. He was still tending sheep when it came time to become a soldier. So he went straight into the army from his flock of sheep. He served his 3 years, and when he returned, he was so poor that he didn't know what to do or where to look. He had nothing to his name and hardly any clothes. There was a farmer who owned a flock of 30 goats, who needed a goat herd who could herd the goats during the day and milk them every morning, noon and night, and keep their stable clean and tidy. The young lad happened to be passing and took the job straight away and led the goats out to the nearby meadow. But the young lad was no ordinary goat herd. He was sharp and witty and had learned a couple of clever tricks during his time as a soldier. So he talked to the goats all of the time and ordered them around in a military fashion until they learned to understand his simple commands. He marched them up and down, and by the time he was finished, he could get them to parade around the meadow like a miniature army. One day, the lad saw a rich man in a carriage riding past the meadow, so he drove the herd of goats to the side of the road, where he waved, and the rich man stopped his carriage. The lad said, "The reason I stopped you, sir, is to show you what these goats have learnt to do since I have been their goat herd." The rich man in the carriage was very impressed with their performance and asked, "Who owns these goat soldiers?" "Why, they belong to the local farmer." The rich man was so impressed that he purchased all 30 goats, but insisted that the young lad should go and work for him for a month. Then the rich man invited all of his rich friends to come and see for themselves. "I want to show you something very interesting, something you've never seen in your life before." A gentleman from a foreign land liked the performance so much that he begged to buy the herd of goats. And so the rich man sold them to him. The foreign gentleman reached into his pocket and paid the price, and the rich man gave all the money to the goat herd, who used the money to buy a plot of land, build a fine house, and buy himself some good clothes, and to live a proper life like other people did. And he lived happily ever after.